Thank you, Gary. What a warm thing to be here doing a graduation speech with a former law clerk who's dean of a great law school. And you have a splendid dean, I tell you. He is something else. Governor Nixon and Chancellor Lofton, distinguished faculty members, graduates, their families and friends, and other distinguished guests. It's good to be here. It has been 57 years since I graduated from law school. And if you ask me now what the graduation speaker said, I couldn't tell you. In fact, if you asked me just 2 or 3 years later, I probably wouldn't remember what he said. I had this in mind when I pondered over what to say to you today as you leave here and begin the practice of law. What was foremost in my mind when I graduated 57 years ago was that I had a job and would try to make the best of it. I had no idea of what the future might hold. Would I be doing, say, 10 years down the road? The thought that I might become a judge, much less a federal judge with life tenure, never entered my mind. I wanted to be a good lawyer, well thought of by the elder members of the profession, as well as my peers. And I also wondered what it would take to be a great lawyer. I now know what a great lawyer is like and what it takes to become one. But back then, just starting out, what it took to become a great lawyer was unknown to me. The senior partner of the firm I joined was a member of that great lawyer peer group. I said to myself, I'd like to be like him someday. By the time I entered the 4th decade of my life, I could tell you that what made that partner the great lawyer he was. And now in my 8th decade, I can tell you not only what made him a great lawyer, but other lawyers as well. They all had the same traits, the same characteristics. They were giants of the profession. First and foremost, they were courteous. They took on the difficult cases no one else would take, because the client was an outcast, or his cause was unpopular, or he challenged those in power, and because there might be personal repercussions. Their preparation in those cases was relentless. They left no stone unturned. What was at stake required that. I say that the great lawyers I knew had the same characteristics: integrity and honesty beyond reproach, and an undying loyalty to their clients. Their clients loved them. These lawyers were also reverent. They revered the judges, though the judges may have erred and they lost their case. The judges reciprocated, looking upon them with reverence as well. These lawyers treated opposing counsel and their clients with utmost respect. And they had a broad and diverse comfort zone, these lawyers did, meaning that they could be at home, be comfortable, and at ease in most surroundings. I never knew a great lawyer who was a zealot, who was an ideologue, who had a closed mind. Great lawyers exude confidence. At the same time, they are keenly aware that they don't know it all. They realize that once they think they know it all, they will be on a slippery slope. and in the end, that could lead to catastrophe. I hope you are able soon to spend a week listening to arguments in the Missouri Court of Appeals, or the Missouri Supreme Court, or the Court of Appeals, the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals in St. Louis. If you are lucky, you will see one or two great lawyers argue. Notice how candid they are with the court, conceding the shortcomings of their case and then getting to the heart of the matter, the justice of the cause. Notice their demeanor when they interact with the judges, how they and the court seem to be having a cordial conversation, not an argument. It is something uplifting to behold. As you watch what is taking place, you will hearken back to what your professor was talking about in your class on ethics and professionalism. The preamble to the American Bar Association Model Rules of Professional Conduct, referring to a lawyer's responsibilities, states that as an advocate, a lawyer zealously asserts his client's position under the rules of an adversary system. Great lawyers represent their clients zealously, but they do it with grace, with civility, and with manners. They know that justice is a three-legged stool. A three-legged stool. Justice requires a fair and impartial judge, witnesses who abide by their oath to tell the truth, and lawyers wed to the highest level of ethics and professionalism. If one of the legs collapses, there is no justice. There are impediments that you will encounter in becoming a great lawyer. Most, if they are not overcome, are likely to damage one's reputation for integrity or honesty or loyalty. Never forget that it takes years to build a good reputation and that it can be destroyed overnight. The question you will be facing as you develop into a lawyer of utmost reputation and respect, the kind of lawyer you want to be, is whether you can overcome the hurdles that will be placed in your paths along the way. For a long time, commencement speakers have been telling graduates about to enter the practice of law to safeguard their consciences and their reputations. And yet, as a judge, I see lawyers do questionable or imprudent things all the time. Why is that? In movies or in casual conversation, ethical dilemmas present themselves front and center, and the righteous lawyer only needs to pick between right and wrong. When you enter the real world, I think you'll find that the most ethical and reputational lapses happen gradually, day by day. Maybe a lawyer exaggerates his hours, first a little bit, then later by a lot. The lawyer does this even though if you asked him, he'd tell you he's an ethical person. Guarding against this kind of incremental ethical erosion requires vigilance. The question is not whether your principles will be tested, but only when. And I hope to offer some advice about how to guard yourself in advance from making the kinds of tiny lapses in judgment that, when compounded over the length of a legal career, erode the good reputation on which all great lawyers depend. First, you should know yourself. As Shakespeare expressed it in Hamlet over 4 centuries ago, know thyself, and to thyself be true. What Shakespeare said then is true today. Put your law school ranking aside. Everyone in this graduating class is a novice. All start with a clean slate. Next, you will need to find a Dutch uncle, someone outside your law office and 2 or 3 generations older, with whom you can share concerns you would rather not share with a lawyer in your firm. Third, you need to be a participant in the community. I use the word community broadly here. It might be a church or a charity or a softball league. Whatever it is, it's something that gets you out from behind your desk from time to time and out into the real world. The great lawyers I've known were not billing the most hours or handling the most cases or making the most money. They were instead stepping out into the community and using their talents and influence to improve the lives of their neighbors. So my last piece of advice is be a joiner. If your firm needs someone to take a pro bono matter, put up your hand. If your bar association needs someone to organize an event, step forward. Participating in the community will help you keep your bearings as you navigate the complexities of your early career. I promise that getting out of the office once in a while will make you happier and healthier, and a better lawyer on top of that. Every lawyer needs a mentor, especially a lawyer like you just starting out. If you are practicing in a law firm, your mentor will be someone with more experience than you have. A law office is like a pyramid. When I started out, the pyramid was very, very narrow. The ratio of partners to associates was 1 partner to 2 or 3 associates. I had 3 mentors, all partners. The oldest was in his 70s, one of the great lawyers in Jacksonville. Because associate salaries were low there in those days compared to those paid today, these mentors could take you with them to court or to a contract negotiation, just so you could see how things were handled and later ask them questions. Our wages were such that the time we spent at the mentor's elbow wasn't charged to the client. Over the 3 decades, the next 3 decades, the law firm pyramid has been flattening out. So today, the partner-associate ratio may be 1 partner to several associates, such that the partner has little time, if any, to counsel young associates. The result is that the young associates are mentored by an associate, but with 3 or 4 years' experience. It resembles the blind leading the blind. In that setting, the young associate is better off finding a mentor from outside the law office. Now, I know that giving advice is easy, and listening to someone else's advice isn't much harder. The hard part, obviously, is really hearing, listening closely and reflecting on how or even whether that advice can be useful to you as you start your career. You are graduating at a time of great uncertainty for the legal profession. Some reputable firms have disappeared. The job market for young lawyers remains challenging. And you've no doubt seen articles in newspapers suggesting that going to law school at all is a fool's errand. I don't believe that, not for a moment. The truth is that uncertain times make good lawyers not less essential, but more essential than ever. Lawyers occupy a unique place in American society. Almost 200 years ago, Alexis de Tocqueville remarked that the bench and bar form the closest thing the United States has to an aristocracy. And I don't think it's any less true today. I realize that aristocracy isn't a popular word with Americans, But de Tocqueville was using that word in a very special sense. He was talking about a class of society, admittedly elitist in character, possessing a strong sense of responsibility, for the social order. Instead of the hereditary aristocracies of the old world, though, de Tocqueville saw in America a more meritocratic aristocracy composed of ordinary citizens taking up the service of society when they took up the craft of the law. He said, lawyers belong to the people by birth and interest, but to the aristocracy by habit and taste. Lawyers are the leadership class in our country. In our government and in our communities, they form a vital institutional link between the past and the present, incrementally adopting proven principles to a constantly changing world. When you went to law school, you were doing more than picking a job. You were joining a profession in the finest sense of that word, a craft that, if you're diligent and principled, will reward you in ways it's impossible for you to foresee sitting here today. I think Justice Story was right when he said that the law is a jealous mistress, requires a long and constant courtship. It is not to be won by trifling favors, but by lavish homage. Your time as a student ends here today, but you're only at the beginning of what I hope will be a lifelong relationship with the law. One last point. The great lawyers I've known were exceedingly humble, constantly aware of both their own limitations and how much they owed to others in getting them to where they were. We are here today to celebrate your accomplishments. You've graduated from law school, and that is a fine thing. And I hope you're as proud of yourselves as you should be. But I also hope that you take time today to reflect with gratitude and humility on the people who put you here, the friends and family, teachers and mentors who made all this possible. Many of them are here today. You can thank them at the reception following this ceremony. Thank you.